Okay, let's get going. So to start, you're going to need to set out your ingredients. Start with about 5-6 eggs, some garlic powder, a little chili powder, cayenne pepper for some heat, smoked paprika. Like to do a scallion, I don't know, a couple red onions, ham, cheese, some salt and pepper, and of course I missed the spinach, but whatever, just get that yourself. So the best place to begin any meal is with the mise en place, or like your preparations right before you're going to cook. I like to start by slicing about one whole bell pepper into small little chunks. Now it is important to understand that whenever I'm referring to an action of like cutting, chopping, dissolving, removing, I'm referring to a physical change. A physical change is a change that alters a substance without changing its composition. This basically refers to any change that does not involve one or more substances turning into other substances. When you're done physically changing your peppers into, well, smaller peppers, it's time to put them to the side and have them wait till later. And next up is the onion, and for those of you who know me, you know that I hate cutting onions, hate it, so I'm just gonna try something a little different. Wow. But actually, when you were in awe of my editing magic, I was suffering cutting the onions and crying to myself. So why does an onion make you cry? I thought cutting something is only a physical change and therefore it shouldn't create any reaction in your eye. Well, with an onion, it's a little bit different. When slicing through an onion, you're also slicing into its cell and its organelles, and when you slice into the organelles, you will rupture a vacuole, which is filled with enzymes that, when sliced open, will release a bunch of chemicals and start a reaction. The main instigator in this reaction with your eye is syn-propethenoyl S oxide, a covalent compound with a chemical formula of C3H6OS. This acidic compound is formed by the enzymes in the onion and irritates the nerve endings in your eye, causing you to tear up and make you look like you just cried. Once you're done slicing, put that away and save it for later. And while you're at it, you might as well go ahead and slice up the scallions and your ham. Next, you need to take the hard calcium-based outer layer off the eggs, or in other words, you need to crack them. Adding a splash of milk or cream will actually make the frittata a little bit lighter and fluffier because the milk will get in between the protein matrix of the eggs. And of course, this is the part where we'd add everyone's favorite ionic compound, NaCl, sodium chloride, or salt. The water in the egg mixture will dissolve the salt, or NaCl, due to its solubility properties, and as my chemistry teacher always loves to say, it follows NAG/SAG/PMS/Castro-Bear, as there is a group 1 element and a halogen. When mixing your egg mixture, you want to get it as close to homogeneous as possible, or only being able to observe one singular phase, but in the end, this mixture is probably going to be heterogeneous, where you can observe multiple different phases. And onto the stove we go. Point for good luck. There we go. And we're going to add a little bit of neutral oil. I prefer olive oil, but anything works. About 1 to 2 tablespoons to start. Put your pan on medium to high heat and let that oil smoke for a little bit. Start off with the chopped bell peppers. I like to put them in about a minute or two before everything else, just because they take the longest to cook. And don't forget to use your badly shaped spatula to stir things around. Then add your onions to the pan and continue to stir it. A quick tip to help the peppers and onions cook quicker is adding a little bit of water, letting it evaporate, and putting a lid on top to help the pressure increase. Now, this helps the peppers and onions cook quicker through a kind of complicated series of steps. The first step is water evaporation, which occurs when the liquid is poured onto the hot pan. Now, this happens because the liquid or water molecules vibrate so quickly as the temperature increases, they break the hold of the liquid and escape into a gaseous phase. The next step in this process can be explained through PV equals nRT, or everyone's favorite ideal gas law equation. Since pressure and N, the number of moles, are proportional, as the moles increase when water is evaporated, so will the pressure in the pot. And finally, as pressure increases, so does thermal conductivity, which means that heat is more equally and easily transferred to the food in the pan. After the peppers and onions are beginning to cook a little bit, add the spices to your liking, but don't add too much cayenne because it might make it a little bit spicy. Don't forget to fail to open your cayenne when you're putting your spices in. It really makes the frittata that much better. To prevent any of the spices from burning at the bottom of the pan like this is about to, add a little bit of water and stir around. When the spices dissolve in the water, they will be prevented from burning as liquid water cannot reach high enough temperatures to burn spices. And therefore, when the water does evaporate, it will leave behind the spices in perfect condition. This tactic is known in the culinary world as deglazing a pan, which is a very useful skill to use in all types of cooking. Next up, add your ham to the pan. At this stage is where I turn on my broiler, or some people call it a grill. If you don't have a broiler or grill, I'd put your oven to about 500. At this point, we're going to add a large handful of spinach. Now, this might look like a lot, but when it cooks, it's going to wilt and lose a bunch of water and mass, so it'll be the right amount when it's done. When we come back to the pan, the spinach is the perfect amount. Now, this has actually been happening with all the vegetables as they've been cooking. As vegetables cook, their cell walls deteriorate, and they release water, which is then evaporated in the pan, so therefore they lose mass as they cook. Then you're going to turn the heat off and add the egg mixture to the pan. Don't stir it around so the eggs can firm up with the vegetables and meat. And sure, it may be unnecessary, but I like to add a little bit more spice to the top to add another layer of flavor to the dish. Then you're going to slide your pan into the oven until the top egg mixture is completely solidified. Energy is transferred from the oven to the pan through 3 different methods: radiation, convection, or conduction. In this scenario, the conduction is the hot pan that's in the oven, the convection is the hot air circulating around the oven, and the radiation is the top broiler, which is heating up the oven. Once a lot of the water has evaporated from the egg and it becomes a little bit solid at the top, it's time to rip apart some pieces of American cheese. I know, pretty childish, but it's what tastes really good. Put this back in the oven so the fats in the cheese can undergo a phase change when they melt and become gooey and delicious. To finish, add some sodium chloride, pepper, and cut scallions to the top. Dislodge with your bendy spatula, and I prefer to serve the frittata on a cutting board instead of a normal plate. And insert comical eating position. Bang. But in all seriousness, this is a great meal, well-rounded, decently healthy, and I used to eat this like 3 to 4 times a week. I know it might not be the most traditional, and your Nona might get mad at me for making it like this, but to be honest, I think it's pretty good.